perimenopausal athlete summit masterclass series where we are bringing together experts on female physiology, training, nutrition, and recovery. And we have two people coming together, and it's just absolutely perfect because we're talking in part by the power of community and how important that is. So I would like to welcome both Jennifer Howard Brown and Ruth England, who come from, well, now that they're living in different places, but first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have both of you. And I will admit that my insider information is, I reached out to Ruth because of my insider information of the company that she founded, which is Rogue Running. And this, what I knew as a store and what has grown to be now like humble beginnings, right? Like a store in Austin, Texas. This store, though, wasn't just a place that you went and bought your running shoes. This store really was founded on community and the spirit of community. And now what it has become is it's an event, organization. They put on these really fun events. It was the first time that I ever saw beer at the end of an event. I was like, oh my goodness, these people, like, they're ready to have fun. And they have an adventure travel arm now. They have, right now they have different stores that are around, but they have Rogue Running has 6 different training places across the US. There's an online community I can't wait to tell you about. There's a podcast, which is awesome. And so they have just grown out of who they really at that core value. And that's Ruth. This is just this is who she is really. And and some more things to know about Ruth is that she had a not-for-profit Team Rogue, which really supported professional runners get to their races and to do great things. She helped kids in disadvantaged schools learn about running and the passion for running because it just oozed out of her. And yeah, she lives in Denver, Colorado now. She's still coaching. She also has added a few other sports, so that's super fun. I'm so glad to know that she's added mountain biking and hiking, which is one of my most favorite things to do. So that's Ruth. And Ruth came in touch with, I don't actually know how you guys came in touch, but Jennifer is a coach of Rogue Running. And she started I don't know if she started, but one of the other aspects of her life is that she actually works for tech marketing, leading semiconductor companies. So I don't even know what that means because it doesn't have something to do with training or nutrition recovery or anything like that. But she does stuff with conductors, and but she's a huge ambassador for the sport of running with Rogue Running for Lululemon. She's been there for a long time. She's a native Texan, very proud alumna of the University of Texas at Austin. Like, am I supposed to cook 'em horns? That's what I say now. Okay, got it. And an avid marathoner, loves just running them, but now does a lot of running just for fun. Get this. This gives you a sense of Rogue. Is like she now coaches the gin and tonics. And she's also a coach of the She Squad, which is a virtual training program, specifically, obviously, She for women. And finally, she has, talk about an entrepreneur of like just doing tons of different things. Hey, like Jennifer, you're just all over the map, semiconductors. And then she also owns a beauty bar because it's called the 10 Spot, because who doesn't want to feel like a 10 out of 10? All right. Did I miss anything in those introductions there? Okay.
No, that was perfect.
So perfect. All right. Well, let's get right into it because there's a lot that we want to talk about. So first of all, you both have decades, like together community, decades of experience in coaching women specifically. And I want to just get into your thoughts about how are we doing this as we age? Like, what are the most important things that you would say to any woman that is, we can talk about from beginner up to, somebody who's really going after, hard, want to get to Boston even.
definitely. Go ahead, Jen. I'll let you go first, and then I'll.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many elements of it. And, I can tell your passion for running and for women, and women's health and women's performance in the sport. And, Ruth and I share that. And so a little over a year ago, we started exploring this connection of like, okay, women, we're different physiologically, and what impact does that have on our sport? And, it's amazing. It has a lot of impact, right? And yet here we are, adult women who've run most of our lives, and there has been little to no emphasis or differentiation on our unique physiology and how that changes things, right? And so, I think over the last year, things we've explored are the importance of, our nutrition is different. Our hormones are different, especially in that perimenopausal to menopausal phase, right? Like things are changing, and we have to be attuned to that and make a lot of adjustments. And I know we have plenty of time, so we'll go into more specifics on those, but, we can't just, operate like we're small men. We're not, we're different.
So you really see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we both have seen it in the athletes that we coach, but in ourselves, because we have hit menopause. So I think, but even before that, as a coach, but also as an athlete, I think there are always things where questions I had, like, why did something go poorly? Why isn't this going as well as I think my training's going? I have to be different, but I don't know why. And Jen and I have had different experiences, both before menopause and during menopause. Like, we don't have the same exact complaints. I complain about food being very important to me during, not that she doesn't complain about food or like food, but I'm very sensitive since menopause, and have found many of the women that we train are super sensitive to, say, carbohydrates, for example. And, a lot of times I think we believe as we age and you get into menopause, I'm just like a man now. I mean, I just have some hormones. I don't have as many as I used to. So of course it should be just like men. And I'm getting older, so I'll recover more. And those to me seem like they're the, I don't know, what everyone believes. And so it's taken Jen and I some research. Certainly we have subscribed to ROAR. It was one of the foundations of our She Squad group, and went through it, but we didn't understand it. Like, both of us were like, understood it, but we're not experts, and we have jobs. And so we pulled in experts into our training group in order to kind of help us and help our athletes understand. And then we both took a big leap, and we wrote the schedule differently.
Okay.
And so normally in a group training setting, you would just sort of have a schedule based on beginner, intermediate, advanced. Let's just say something easy, because we are group training. We don't do one-on-one coaching. Yep. And so we did it by making it phased into your hormones. So we have, the recovery week being the week before your period. And then we have a moderate week, we called it, the week before that. So as your hormones ramp up, we did that. And then your hard training weeks are hopefully the 2 weeks. And this is a given if we have to work with a calendar. Again, we're not personalizing schedules. The 2 weeks during your period and after, before you start into your high hormone phase, in order to see, hey, does this help people? Mm-hmm. Is this helping? So I don't know, I thought I'd blob in there and then let Jen go again.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, and it's been really interesting to kind of hear that experience with our athletes, because we didn't have the, good fortune of being able to train that way. But as we've looked back on our running histories and when we got injured or when we got sick and, those kind of things along the way, we could see the pattern that was there. We just weren't aware of it at the time. And so, really trying a new and different approach with our athletes to see if, can we keep them running healthy for longer periods of time and try and ward off injury. And then the other element of it, that's all like the physiology and the physical side of it. But then there's also this mental aspect of it, which is what, we're exploring with the squad now, is kind of going down that path, because I think as we age, and this is age old with runners, right? As you age, you expect that you can't go as fast as you used to be able to do, right? So with runners, typically you go longer distance, right? You increase your distance because you're top end speed is waning. And I think, you know, we've seen it over the years of especially women like, well, I'm 40 now, you know, I'm not going to be able to PR. Well, I'm 50 now, I definitely can't PR. And it's just not true. It's just not true, right? If we can keep them training healthy and going, you know, proper builds through our macro cycles, they can PR at any age.
That is so fun. So I have, and I love it that you brought that up because, you know, sometimes I know for myself, I get so holistic. I'm just like, oh, it's so good. But you know what, at the same time, if you want that darn PR, let's go get it. Like, let's not sit back and say that those best times even are that far away. And I mean, maybe if you were a professional athlete before, you might not be quite getting more myself. But anyway, I digress. So one thing I want to ask you though, because you do group and there's so many individual differences. So how is it that you are helping your athletes come into an awareness of their body of like, is this right for me? Is this right? Like, this is what we say, but is that what you need? Like, how does that look and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge, but I think the best way to confront that is being honest. That this is I mean, some of it is imparted because now we're all very virtual, you know, and so we're having to take more responsibility for ourselves in a sense, and we don't have the contact. And so I think some of the things Jen and I we give them the tools. I mean, it sounds like fishing or a Bible verse or something, but we want to give them the tools, and we're honest about that. Hey, this is a group experience. These are fairly generic, but okay, so how do you place your long run, and why did we place it there, and why are we doing this workout when we're doing it, and how do you know you need to take a break? So a lot of discussions about like heart rate, if that's what they're used to, effort base, you know, even heart rate daily to make sure that your heart rate isn't spiked up or something is super low or that things are off. So I think it's a lot of teaching them about themselves and then asking, hey, are you taking care of yourself? Are you doing this? You know, Then we have like most groups, we have kind of a group board. Yeah. And so there's lots of questions. We also this season got mentors and people who've been in the group, and they mentor a set of women that, so that they have someone to maybe go to as first line of defense or to discuss some of the things that maybe we quickly, because we've been doing it so long, like, we don't need to talk about that because we just, you know, realize we've gotten past beginner. So I don't know, Jen, what else?
And I mean, the other elements there are I do agree. Probably the primary thing we've done is sort of teach them to self-coach a little bit, like Ruth is alluding to. But we've done that we started out with weekly Zoom community meetings. We now do that bi-weekly. Weekly was a lot. And we find we get better attendance with bi-weekly, you know, because by then people have had time to think about things and come with questions. And then we also do athlete one-on-ones. So even though it is a virtual training group, there is still some personalization and customization, even though, you know, obviously Coach Ruth is not writing, you know, 40 different individual schedules, right? Like she mentioned, they're sort of periodized around our athletes' cycles. Trying to help them.
So that's so fantastic to kind of, because it is such a navigation, right? So you are really essentially helping women learn about their bodies and what they need and how to come in tune with them.
And I think telling our own personal stories too has been an important part of it. Whether, I mean, just personal stories about how our training has changed, obstacles we've had to overcome in order to demonstrate that how different just even Jen and I are, you know, maybe we have different color hair. No, but I mean, but we've often followed very similar programs when we talk about that, but had to approach it ourselves our own way. And if we don't take responsibility for our own training, ultimately, not just because we're virtual, but because you know yourself the best, and being honest, I think too, you know, encouraging them to be honest with themselves and throwing out at the group, places where we know we've been dishonest, like we have a hard time with, I really need to get those miles in my training and I can't give up the week mileage. I mean, we did it as athletes. We know what's going to happen next, so we know it's coming. And so when someone brings up that topic, that's a perfect opportunity to step in and sort of be a little like, no, and this is why. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And we've done it. And okay, well, when you do it, tell us. So when you break, we can all learn from it. But I think that's part of it, because it's not just the miles you run. I mean, it's what you put in your body, and it's how much sleep you get. And we try to emphasize a lot of those things. Because so part of it, because I think especially, there's not a ton of information, as you know, on menopause. And Jen and I have semi-explored it at the same time, in a sense, with a lot of our athletes, because we definitely have a pretty big group of menopausal women. Maybe it's because they're our age. And then we have young ones out there, there's more information about that. But for menopause, Jen and I invited a couple OBGYNs in on our talk, and then a couple other kind of more scientists to talk about it. And it was interesting to see how different the advice was, like in terms of what supplements you can take, and then it's just like, it makes it difficult because everyone wants to answer, what should I be doing? And it's like,
well, let me start here. No, I think it's a really good point. So when I just want to make sure that we're clear on understanding, because when I say menopause, I mean, it's like a single day.
Oh,
and are you talking post-menopause or perimenopause?
Oh, I guess I was talking perimenopause, but also postmenopause for the two.
Right. Well, because you mentioned we haven't talked a lot about within this masterclass series about the post-menopause, and how that, like you had mentioned earlier, Ruth, about, okay, now my hormones are low, I can really train like a man. It's like, okay, recover a little bit more, but that's not we're going to work either. So can you go into that just a tiny little bit so we can, like, what did you see there and what have you taken on there?
Well, go ahead. You go ahead, Jen. I just got done blabbing.
No, I was going to say, I think, obviously when your body stops producing estrogen, then you start to lose bone density and osteoporosis becomes more challenging. And like Ruth mentioned earlier, our bodies become even more sensitive to glucose and, to carbs in general, not just glucose. But, I think we experienced it, but we didn't know any better at the time, right? Like we weren't prepared for it, I guess is the way to put it, right? No one talked about it. No one told us what was happening. Even going back to perimenopause, like I was pretty young. I mean, I was perimenopausal at around 40. And, to me, I was like, I could still be having babies. How could I possibly be, perimenopause? But I didn't know what was happening to me, right? I didn't know why I felt the way I felt some days. Like I could be powerful and strong and, killing it on Tuesday. And on Thursday, I was running 12-minute miles, and it's just like, what's happening to me? I didn't know. Right. And I'd never had really, bad periods. Like this is one of the things where it's like, but because it wasn't a thing. It was like, okay, it happened, but it wasn't a thing to me. It was not a big deal. Well, then when I hit perimenopause, all of a sudden I either didn't have a period or I had a really heavy period that went on for like a week, and it would start out of the blue. I wouldn't know when. I could be out on a run, it was just, and it was embarrassing. It was stressful, because I didn't know when or where, these things were going to happen. And there was no education. Like I said, I think I was a little young for it. And so I didn't hear it from other people. Right. And so I think that's one of the huge values of this, and getting a masterclass like this out there. And what we're trying to do with the She Squad is like help other women like navigate this pitfall. Right.
Yeah. We have a lot of women to reach. We have
yes,
a lot of women to reach on this.
Nobody talks about this.
No. Well, we are. So this is great.
Yeah.
So underneath all of this, and like what is so absolutely rogue, is this community, this sense of community, and you can sense it, like even just this conversation which we're having, you bringing in your story, I didn't know, I want other women to know, and reaching out, bringing women together. Can you talk just a little bit about what that means to training, and why you think like we need to be connected, we need to find connection to each other, and how powerful that is?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that's the essence of Rogue in a sense. It was the mission statement, which is good and bad. I mean, it's always been good. And I truly believe community and networking and helping everybody out is extremely important. And so there's nothing bad about that at all. And I think that's what, we've done with all our programming, especially She Squad. And Jen just said what I would say, which is that, and what you're doing, Tennille, is really important to me as a person, is that I want everyone to know, and I want people to start talking about menopause. Like, I don't want it to be that bad word and that shameful word, and perimenopause to be embarrassing, and the stuff that happens as you age as a female embarrassing. And I want science. I want more people to study this. So it's like, if this was Viagra, if the Viagra was treating us, we wouldn't have any Viagra. And I truly believe that is the problem. We don't ever get to be the focus, and we haven't been the focus. But if we create a community of women, which you're doing and we're trying to do in our own way, and we start talking about it and talk about it a lot, and eventually people will be like, hey, I think I need to write another book about that. Or, hey, I think we need to do this study. But women need to start discussing it with their doctors. They need to, that is our responsibility, in a sense, in order to get the ball moving, is to talk to our doctors, have honest conversations about, no, that's not enough information. No, I need more. Oh, no, you didn't study on that on women. You only studied that on men. That is not your work. I think that's part of it. But as coaches, we both Jen and I talk to a lot of people, men and women, a lot in, our different communities. And that's an opportunity for us to continue to share this, because there are differences. I can't have any damn bread. That makes me grouchy. I can't eat certain foods. I mean, some of it, I have to hydrate more. I have to recover a little bit more than I used to, but not much. I mean, but there are changes, but no one talked about, no one talks about it. And if no one's talking about it, then you think you're wrong, and you think there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with any of us. I mean, foggy brain, it's so crazy. I lose my damn car in the parking lot all the time. If it wasn't for the clicker, I wouldn't have found it to get to back to my house this afternoon, or whatever, mid-afternoon. So I'm in the parking lot clicking. I'm like, oh my God, but I've accepted it. That's menopause. Click around.
It's so perfect.
Throw in there. I think, your question about community is such a good one, because I do think, Ruth being a mistress of community, from the beginning with Rogue, but when she came to me with this idea about this virtual women's group, because obviously we live in different cities, this virtual women's group, organized around, looking at women's hormone cycle and how that impacts training, and then leaning on this panel of experts, of nutritionists and OB-GYNs and, pelvic floor PTs and, all these different kind of, specialists. I thought, this is actually really interesting. I think there's something here. And it struck a chord, right? Like, I think our first She Squad had like 60 people. And here we are a year later, and we're just, we're adapting and kind of, changing the elements. Like, we're not taking away the hormone cycle training, but we're adding that next layer of mental training on top of it. But, especially this year, I think, having gone through this weird pandemic year where we're used to having our communities, our physical in-person communities that was taken away from us, right? I think it became even more important than ever. And I think that's, part of it, I think, is the topic and the interest in women wanting to take charge of their health and learn and grow and perform. But then I think the other part of it is just this need for community and, I don't know, sisterhood and sharing and connection. That's been really cool.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. Like, I love it that that you did it. I love it that people are finding such a place in it. And that beyond COVID, when I do hope that we have our running groups coming together in mass and our start lines in mass. But the reality is that I see for a lot of women as well, it's particularly 40s and 50s, as we, take on more, young, some people have teenagers and like full on, like we are coming into coming in and like have things to say. And it's really a powerful time, but that means that we also are very stretched.
Mm-hmm.
And we might not make it to the group practice because it just is never going to be at the right time. And that there are communities that are going to be, that are coming. I'll have one, you have one, that you will find your place and find your connection, and to encourage women to do that. And there's enough, and it goes to this other point, and maybe you can just quickly each comment on it, is like lifting each other up as well. And that we have so many women to reach.
Yeah. I agree. We do have a lot of people to reach, I think, to bring into the fold, because I think the conversation can start out by training through and hormones and perimenopausal, and that can reach out to people who have, like you said, teenagers, who can help them be better coaches, and it can reach sideways to the people of your own age who need the information about menopause, who need information about training and community, and it can reach up to the people who are a little bit older to keep exercising. Oh, you didn't know this, here's the information. But I think this is such an important time. We're so busy, but if we don't just keep sharing and talking and doing it as a collective and just kind of collecting more friends, that's what I think of it as. I don't care. You can be in every friend group you want, but you can be in our group too, and kind of thing. And we collect each other in order to pass information, because I think women are expert networkers. We're like, hey, did you hear about this? That sale? Or, not just shopping, but hey, you know about that thing? Or did you see this? I think that's our advantage, is we want to reach out, we want to connect. And if we can just take advantage of that skill we have to naturally connect with each other, we need it, but we also do it really super well. And I think that can lead to some significant changes in training and in life and in work, and just all the things that need to be forefront right now for women.
I love it.
I think, Tanil, your point about the communities is also really valid, because, again, in this weird year, even let's say, the younger women who have the littles, they've been homeschooling and trying to work and trying to train and trying to do all these things. And I think that the community has given them some support, mental health wise, but also just having this accountability, like, okay, I've got to homeschool my 5 and 7-year-old. I'm not going to be able to make it downtown on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to do a group workout, but I can be in this virtual group where I can do the run when I can fit it in, but I still get that experience of having a team and a coach and support and all those other elements. So I think that's kind of one of the silver linings out of this last year, right? Is I think people are now seeing, like, I can get some of that same magic that I would get by going downtown to Rogue by being in Tanil's virtual group or being in the Rogue She Squad or something like that.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm so excited about what you guys are creating, and that you are, you're living it. You're living it. All right. You're doing it. And I'm so excited for all the women that are, getting and making that reach. Because you're right, Ruth, the impact is massive. By one woman saying something, by one woman, like you were saying, like, where are my darn keys? Like beep, 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 and like just being like, oh, that's such a thing, and being okay with it and laughing at ourselves, because honestly, that's like, how else are we going to deal with it? Like, yeah, it's crazy. I can't tell you how many times I've lost things this week, but in any case, I have 3 rapid fire questions, and we're going to go like boom, 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 boom. Ready? Okay. Give us one moment of courage.
Asking for help when I was really struggling mentally from my divorce.
Yep. Starting a small business during a pandemic.
Those are both so awesome. Yeah. Asking for help. That's it. And I hear you on the pandemic thing, business piece, and being adaptable, right? And knowing that we can and be there and feel the feels. Okay. Tell us one thing that you are grateful for right now.
Physically able to try new sports like mountain biking. My fave.
And I would say mine is having a talented and wise support network to back me up.
See, it's the community. It's just like it just goes in everything here. It's like you're part of Rogue and you and honestly, like I know I'm plugging. I know I am, but for me, I haven't lived in Austin, Texas for it's been a long time, and it still was such a absolutely pivotal time in my life. And that's the community that is just peripherates there, and it's still within me. It's a part of me, and that's also how it just went. It's like I understood something different. It could be different. Anyway, okay. So talk about my road. All right. What is one piece of advice that you continuously give yourself as you prepare for this, or as you guys went through perimenopause, if you're on the other side, and that you would tell women, or what you continuously tell yourself even now as you're past that 1 year anniversary date and in your menopause years, post-menopause years?
Ask questions.
Yeah. And I would say cut yourself some slack. I mean, that's the other one. I think I have to say that to myself every day.
Cut yourself some slack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just on just quick question on the ask questions. One of the hardest things I would say, and this is another reason why you need to be part of a community, is you don't always know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
You don't even know what's happening. And so when you feel off, maybe that's, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ruth, but is it like when it comes back down to that gut, like something's just not right. And that's when you ask questions and ask for help or get out and we share stories.
Yeah. And that's why it's good to have a community, no matter what it is, of women. I don't think men are bad to have around, but you're not going to ask them not to answer very well on this one. They late. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's why it's good to have a community of women where you feel like you can ask, because even sometimes I find I have this part-time job at REI, and there's a lot of ages there, which is really cool. And sometimes I will saddle up to the women that I think are my age or older, and and I will bring up some menopause thing just to see what they say, because I want to know the answer. I mean, you could do the good same thing if you have a great doctor, but sometimes they just don't give an answer that's helpful, or they don't really I don't know what it is sometimes about doctors, but I do feel like other women, and if you can just sort of be like, oh, I get that. So you stand in the parking lot too?
Yeah. Well, and to the point that you made earlier as well, is that, you've had experts on that don't always say the same thing. And it's not that one expert is wrong. One got it right and one got it there. Well, it's just that they're coming from a different angle, and we need a whole lot of expertise, and something that might work for so-and-so might not work for another person. But that's why, again, let's bring it together, people. Let's be in community. And so we can learn and we can share, like, this worked for me, but there's never an assumption that it will work for everyone. And so really cool. All right. So you guys have offered, can I just tell them?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. A free month of training with the She Squad. So you can get a real sense of what how to be empowered and how to be part of a conversation. And thank you for the generosity there. That's super fun. They'll come into a place where we've got you guys. So
we promise it'll be even more fun. I don't know how we do that though. We'll try. We're hats.
There's
do you want the code deal, or do you want to
you can give the code.
The code is 1 month free. It's a number one. And then month free is capitalized and it's one, everything's one word. So 1 month free.
And sorry, which ones are capitalized?
All of them, everything.
All of them. Fully capitalized.
Holy shouting it.
Okay. You've got it, people. You're listening to the audio, you have no idea what we're all doing with our hands and we're
Exactly.
and exactly. All right. Well, and people can find you at
roguerunning.com, and then we are under is it the podcast app? And then Women's Half Marathon. Yeah. I don't know why we're still called Women's Half Marathon. One day we need to change that to She Squad, but that's where it is. We run all distances actually. So it doesn't really, we have a lot of beginners. And then we have kind of, I would say, some all the way up to some advanced marathoners. So everything in between that. So people just starting, getting into it, and then people who've been doing it for quite a while. And it's a good mix because it makes many more coaches.
Yeah, that's super fun. Yeah, I know, that's fantastic. All right. Well, I have really enjoyed this. It's certainly been it's been different. We brought in some different thinking and angles and understanding of what it takes to keep going. So thank you to you both for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Janelle.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.